Guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about I finished my medical billing and coding program, now what? If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. Okay guys, so I got a comment. I'm gonna read the comment, but I will say before I start, this viewer commented on a video I did a couple years ago called I finished my medical billing and coding program, now what? So here we go. All right, she says, hey Blue, thank you so much for the video. It really helped me become unstuck and less confused. If I have been waiting 4 to 5 months after I finished my program, what do you suggest I do? Would a refresher course be helpful or am I doomed? Should I still take 3 more months to take the exam to study, or I want to sit for the exam now that I have learned from your video, but I feel like I need a refresher. What is your opinion? All right, so here's the thing. Let's just get this sorted out of here a little bit because we're kind of all over the place. First things first, right out of the gate, you got to kind of watch what you say. When you say, am I doomed? That's very dramatic language when it comes to studying. You don't want to put that in your head, okay? You don't even want to say it. You don't want to think it. You don't want to have that thought cross your mind at all, okay? So no more saying, am I doomed? You may have just been saying it to be facetious, and that's fine. But again, we have to be careful as adults, the languages that we use when we're talking about ourselves and the things that we're able to do. Now, again, we're kind of all over the place because to me, the vibe that I get from this comment is uncertainty. You know, you've completed your program. I don't know how long the program was. That's number one, and that does affect what I would say. Okay, if it was a fast-paced medical coding program, they said, oh yeah, you can learn this in 4 months, and you went through a 4-month program. Heck yes, I could understand then. Even a 6-month program, I can still understand that because I always recommend when you're choosing a program, choose one that is going to be 9 months, 12 months, or 18 months. This is a good amount of time to be able to get through where you're not rushing, okay? And you're not trying to like cram a bunch of things in all at one time. 9 months is a little fast still, but it is doable, especially if you are not working, all right? But even if you are working, you can still get through a program in 9 months because it takes commitment and it takes you being disciplined enough to stick with your studies 20 hours per week. I will always recommend that students who are really serious about medical billing and coding spend 20 hours of their own time to study. Now, before you say, Blue, I have a full-time job, I got a family, I can't do that. I'm trying to help you be successful. And there's a lot of people who have full-time jobs, families, and a bunch of other activities that they have to be in, and they still manage to squirrel in 20 hours of study per week. Now, you can figure that time in. If you want it, you will find a way. And I've talked on many other videos about that. I've done a video about study tips for busy people, and I've also done a recent study tip video. Again, I will probably leave some in the description box below, guys. Check it out. But the thing about it is when you are taking all of this time, 4 to 5 months afterwards, and I don't know this person, I don't know if they have still continued to study. My guess is that they haven't, because that's most common, okay, that people stop studying once they get done with the program. So yeah, you may have forgotten things. This is why I say that you take 3 months afterwards, no more than 3 months to sit for your exam. If you are ready after you've completed your program and you say, oh, I want to take a week and then I want to schedule my test and then I want to take it, that's totally fine because that tells me that you are ready. This, again, the vibe that I'm getting, the person's not ready. But they're saying that they're ready to sit now, but now they think about it, well, maybe they should wait. You know, there's nothing wrong with waiting and studying consistently for 3 months. That way you set yourself up for success so that you pass the first time. Because even if you, and they didn't say which certification they're going to be sitting for, but you know, when you go in there, you're going to be ready. All right. So if you are ready, then by all means go for it. But if you are hesitant and you're thinking, well, maybe I should study a little bit more, set a deadline. Okay. Set a deadline. And if you want to go up to those 3 months to study and continue to study and be ready by the end of the 3 months, that's totally fine. You want to give yourself those 90 days, That's totally cool. If you say, well, Blue, I want to give myself 60 days, it's up to you, whatever you want to do. I don't know. I don't know everybody, and I don't know your study ethic either. So that's another thing to keep in mind. And also keep in mind, we're coming up into the holidays, and a lot of times people get to be around this time of year, and then all of a sudden the excuses start to come. Well, I've got Thanksgiving, and I've got the holidays and Christmas, and I've got all these other holidays around this time. I've got New Year's, and so they start to come up with these excuses. Guys, when you're making excuses, it's stopping you from a future that you were looking for. All right. So that's why I say the better that you can get done now and get your test done at least sooner rather than later. You know, you won't have to run into those holidays. But if you do it in between the holidays, just keep in mind that, you know, it's up to you to be disciplined. It's up to you to make that time and squirrel away that time so that you can get your studies done, because you can if you want to. When it comes to knowing what to do after your program, the thing that gets me is when you get into these medical billing and coding programs, you know at the end, you're going to have to sit for your certification exam. So if you're saying, well, Blue, I just didn't have the money, but you have the time for all the time that you're studying to save up that money so that way when you're ready to sit for the exam, you'll have it. And that's a responsibility that you have to have for yourself, because it doesn't just stop at getting your certification. Once you get your certification, you then are continually responsible for the upkeep of that credential. Now, if you're with AAPC, it's going to require you to pay $190 per year every single year that you have your certification. Yeah. You have to pay every single year, otherwise they'll revoke your credential. AHIMA, the American Health Information Management Association, does not require you to pay a membership fee. They will charge you a different fee for submitting your continuing education units in order to maintain your credential. And the same thing with AAPC is that you have to have those continuing education units. It's 36 just for one. With the medical coding credentials with AHIMA, it is just 20, okay? So the CCA, the CCS, or the CCSP, they're all 20, all right? But you get more, then it's going to go up. And as you go up, as you get more with AAPC, it will go up as well. So that's something that you have to have. Hopefully you have already decided that before you get done with your program. Now, sometimes it's going to be that your school will prepare you for either or. And sometimes they'll tell you, oh, well, yeah, you need to get certified through both. You only need to be certified through one, guys. Just one. And it is really on you to do your research and see which association you want to go with. These are both fine organizations. They are well respected in the industry. They have a lot to offer, okay? But the associations are going to be different for everybody as far as like what they need. And, you know, again, each one of them has their own special things, all right? I'm all the way with the AHIMA, but I have always believed that people should have a choice. And when it comes to medical coding credentials that employers are asking for, they're asking for the people to be certified through either AHIMA or AAPC. So if you go either way, you're totally fine. But you do need to sit for your exam. Now, if you're going to get cold feet, you get to the end of your program, you have your money to take your test, and then you schedule your exam for like 3 months out, and then you're like, oh no, I have to reschedule. And then you put the brakes on, you know, that's the thing that can mess you up too, because if you've had those 3 months to study, you should be ready by the end of those 3 months. And you can't overthink a lot of this stuff. I've done many videos about overthinking. And that's something that happens to people who study medical billing and coding, is that they start to overthink, because we are naturally overthinkers. It's just a part of us. You know, when you get in, you trust me, you'll get it. But if you are overthinking, it can stop you. It can really stop your success and growth if you start to overthink. So if you've been studying consistently and you schedule for your exam for 3 months out, obviously around the appropriate time you schedule the exam, but it's been 3 months since you completed your program, and you say, well, I don't feel ready, but I know I've been studying. You're ready. You're just not giving yourself enough credit. All right. So just being consistent, not overthinking, and believing in yourself that you can do this, you'll be ready to walk in with confidence and get into the exam room, take your exam, and then get your certification whenever they let you know. If it's with AHIMA, if they're not in a beta period, they will let you know right away. If you're with AAPC, there is a few days lag time before you find out what your score is. So, and if you passed or not. So that's just something that you have to know. But again, it's all about preparedness. You don't want to be like, at the end and then 4 or 5 months later, and then, oh yeah, let me go back and take my certification exam. Well, no, I don't know if I'm ready or not. See, then all of that time and money that you spent going to school is for naught. Because if you decide, oh no, I'm too scared to take it, fear can really rob people of a great life and a great opportunity, just because they're fearful. You don't want to do that to yourselves. So give yourself that chance of even taking the exam. Don't be so scared of it, because again, you know more than you think you do, especially if you've been consistently studying. Now, how do we find the time to consistently study if we have a full-time 40-hour-a-week job and we've got a family and kids and a spouse? Well, here's the thing. If you are driving to work and you have a 30-minute drive to work, that's 30 minutes you could be listening to something. You can listen to YouTube channels that talk about medical terminology and anatomy and pathophysiology. People ask me all the time, unfortunately, how important is it to know medical terminology and anatomy and things like that? Guys, how are you supposed to understand what you're reading if you don't know the body parts? Think about that. So you can listen to a YouTube channel, right, while you're driving. That's 30 minutes that you just listened. Now you have 30 minutes for lunch. You can be going over flashcards. You could be working with the workbooks that I recommended. They're in the description box below, and those will help you to prepare for those exams, right? Work through the workbooks. You get home, you're driving home, that's another 30 minutes. That's an hour and a half that you've already knocked out just by listening, just by working with flashcards at lunchtime, again, or listening to those YouTube videos. Then you have an hour and a half at home at night. Now, you don't have to go all the 1 hour and a half, all at one sitting. You can break it up. You can do 1 hour and then take a break and then come back and do the other 30 minutes. And that's 3 hours in one day that you just did. 3 hours. Now you do that consistently 5 days a week. That's 15 hours of study that you've managed to squirrel in that does not impact your time with your family. It does not impact your time with work. It does not impact your time doing anything else that you need to do. No excuses. 0. You have 5 hours on the weekend. You can pick one day and do those 5 hours, or you can spread it out over Saturday and Sunday. Although I recommend at least giving yourself one whole day off where you're not studying, you're not looking at your books, so that way you don't burn out. And you have time with your family. They don't feel neglected by you. You don't have to go into full-on neglect mode with all the things that you like to do. Okay? Last year when I was sitting for the CCSP, and then when I sat again for this the CCS, at the end of the year, I took both of those for the first time last year, and I passed them both in the first try. But what did I do? I was doing a live show, because I would do live shows every night last year. 5 days a week, I would do live shows. And these live shows were not short shows. Oh, no. Because people would come on and we'd have a good time and we'd talk and laugh and, conversation would get all crazy and stuff. And you'll see if you watch any of my shows from last year. But they would go on for like an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours. And then when I get done with the show, I would go in my room and then I would be like, okay, I got to study. So I would study. So I still managed to work my full 40-hour-a-week job, plus do the 2-hour live show a night on YouTube, plus work my Patreon channel, because my Patreon channel is where I do all of my coding exercises and all of my coding quizzes, and I do shows for them as well. And so doing those, not only that, I was doing tutoring and I was doing resume rewrites, professional coaching. So I'm all over the place. And on top of that, doing my studies. So if I can do it, you can do it. And so again, it's all about not making any more excuses. We are in the tail end of the year. right? And if this was your year to say that you wanted to start a new career, you wanted to study a new career, and you just sort of, managed to procrastinate or put it off, you still have time. If you've gone through your program, you still have time to be able to sit in December for your exam. But you have to get on it now. We are at the beginning of October. And so you have time if you are being consistent, if you want to do this, if you want to get that discipline. So that way you can start 2023 with a new slate, with a new credential on your name, and then that drive to go find your first job in medical coding. That's what it takes, guys. That's what it takes. So stop running around, looking in circles. What should I do? What should I do? Your goal is to pick out a date that you want to sit for your exam and make it realistic, okay? If you haven't been studying, you don't need to be trying to sit for your exam in a week, because you know what? If you haven't been studying, there's a good chance you forgot a lot of it, and there's a good chance you're not going to pass it, okay? Not saying that you would absolutely fail, but there's a good chance that you would fail it, okay? Because you're trying to cram it all into at one time. You don't want to do that. So be realistic, and like I said, 3 months is realistic. All right, that gives you a whole time to get yourself together to be able to study, and then get to that test date. So that way you will have paid for your exam, you will be ready, you'll have the books that you need, and then you can get in there and get your certification. But again, guys, the only one that's going to push you to do anything is you, right? This is not going to be anybody else's show but yours when you walk in that test room and you go sit for your exam. Don't be afraid to take your test. Just get in there and show that test what you know. It is just a test, guys. It is just a test. And if anything happens, if you just don't do well on that test and you have to go and take it again, you just have to go and take it again. But guess what? You'll be coming back with experience. Not that you want to do that, but if it happens, it happens. Guys, things just happen sometimes. And I've seen some really intelligent people, really hard-working students who fail because they let their nerves get the better of them. And unfortunately, that happens. But, you just have to realize that you've been studying. You know what you're doing. This is not a new thing for you. You're not walking in off the street with no idea of what you're doing. And you can't make the excuse, well, my teacher didn't teach me. It's not on the teacher. It's hopefully you have a great teacher, but if they didn't, then it's up to you to teach yourself, to find a mentor, to find a tutor. There's a ton of tutors on LinkedIn. I'm a tutor myself. My rate is in the description box below. So there's ways of finding out how you can get taught if you just need that little one-on-one time. It's a small investment, but it is a small investment that can go a long way into helping you guys, all right? So that's all I'm going to say, all right? But if you've been taking part in my ICD-10 CM Coder Challenge, that's very important to students that are out there preparing themselves for the exam, especially if you are sitting for AHIMA or AAPC. You do need to know your coding guidelines, okay? The challenge is that you read the coding guidelines 4 times total in the month of October. And that comes out to 1 time per week, and you don't have to read them all in one sitting. The ICD-10 CM coding guidelines can be broken up into a few days. I am doing the 5 pages a day approach because if you do 5 pages a day, if you're reading them from the ICD-10 CM manual, right? Because it's about 34 pages or so, give or take. Different publishers going to be different probably, but give or take, it's 34 pages. And so if you read 5 pages a day, you'll get through those guidelines 4 times by the end of the month. So it's a good challenge. It's an attainable challenge that you can do on top of doing your studies, working through the workbooks. And the workbooks are in the description box, guys. Please don't ask me because they are there. The links for the Amazon affiliate links, you don't have to click on them because that's why the title is there, so that you can find them however you find your books, all right? And yes, they are dated. However, you can get the current year workbooks that I'm recommending. You can certainly get the current year workbooks. However, they have the same questions as the the previous year books, and they're way cheaper in the previous year than they are in the current year. So why spend extra money when you don't really need to? And yes, while some of the codes may have updated, that's going to be easy for you to figure out if you've been working with your book. All right. So make sure that you are looking through your books, get familiar with your books. Please don't write, highlight, or tab them. At least that's my advice anyway. That will always be my advice. And before you tell me, well, Blue, that's just how I learn. This is advice coming from a veteran medical coder. All right. And while some instructors are really gung-ho about those tabs, I'm not, because when it comes to flipping the tabs, the pages in the book, it's going to tear your pages, and you cannot have tape in these books. So do you want to run around with a ripped up book? I'm just saying. If you have your book tabbed to heck and gone, this tells me that you have not been practicing in your book enough. You need to practice with the book. That is how you become faster, and that is how you get that confidence to be prepared to walk in and get your test done. Okay, so that's just my advice anyway. If this video was helpful for you, please like, subscribe, and share. If you've been studying, please leave that blue heart, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.